session is called Administrators' Adversities, and a little bit of background. In my own reading, I've come across a session called Dean's Dilemmas at an annual conference of deans in the US. And apparently it's the best attended session at these conferences. It's an open session, you can rant and rave. Now I actually have a presentation, but I'm going to forego that. And just to say that we need to define a couple of terms. This is totally open, and the idea is that you get up and we want to hear from you. The session, so are we having fun? There we go. Now, it's fairly structured. So you do a presentation, there are questions, it's quite structured. This is an unstructured session. Now, I do need to define a couple of terms. So first of all, what is adversity? It's a difficult or unpleasant situation. And basically, it's misfortune, it's ill luck, trouble, difficult. We've been living with that. My reading goes right back to the 1970s, and believe you me, it's nothing new. We've been living with this to the extent that I think we've become too accustomed to it. And so yeah, we need to, recalling Professor Abel's exhortation to us that we need to change our perception of how we look at adversity. So I'll go right back to our Shakespearean days, and in my best Shakespearean oratorical whatever style. Sweet are the uses of adversity, which, like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in his head. And this is our life, exempt from public haunts. It finds tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. And that's the line that I think I would like us to focus on. We face challenges as administrators. And who are administrators? Vice chancellors, principals, deans, heads of departments, everything. I mean, I actually found an interesting one-liner on who are administrators. An administrator is the person responsible for managing things and running the show. So we run the show. The head honchos are there, but we run the show. I also found a job description for an academic administrator. And I'm showing off by using the technology, smartphone instead of, What does this academic, and this is a position at a US university. That administrator provides professional administrative support to the department chair for 3 graduate programs and undergraduate programs. Now this is one person. That person also provides ancillary professional administrative support for the undergraduate to the students themselves. So you're doing the academic preparation, you're doing the student counseling, and we've had those sessions as well. That person also plans, organizes, and implements activities for the program admissions, financial aid, student records, alumni relations, and publications. I have no idea how that's one person. But yet, that's a job description for one administrator. And not only that, the person is expected to attend all graduate and undergraduate committee meetings. We hate meetings, don't we? The person is also supposed to advise students in administrative matters, general program policies, and petition requests. Okay, so we're starting to clone people now. That one person is also supposed to develop and implement computer tracking systems and monitor students' academic achievements. We've seen the Lucian TouchNet presentation, so I suppose we can take that on board. But this is still one person. That person is also supposed to coordinate and develop marketing materials. So the person is also doing admissions, counseling, marketing, but this is an administrator. Oh, we actually have it up there, but I'm still showing off. And the person also provides coverage for the front office, so you're supposed to be there, but you're doing everything else. What are the realities of administrators? I found these very interesting. A good portion of your decisions are not going to be of an academic nature. Evaluation is tough. You're evaluating your colleagues as administrators. You're not in control of your day. That's the one that strikes me best. So people say, but administrators, you all have time. No. I have a list of things to do. I go into the office and the first email that hits me, the entire day is lost. So my to-do list gets done starting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 8 o'clock at night. These happen. People will often surprise you, not necessarily in a good way. So you get thrown a curveball. You'll have to confront your colleagues. That's the reality that we've seen, the issues of mental health, just issues of performance evaluation. How do we deal with that? These are daily challenges. We also have to understand that no matter what decision you make, somebody is going to be upset with some aspect of it. You can't please everybody. So these are how we balance these issues. How do we balance these? Few people understand what you do. We say we're an administrator. So what do you do? Well, we've just seen that job description. Some days you're going to be doing more mediating than administrating or anything else. I'm sure that all of you, most of you, have certainly had days where it's just been spent engaging with people, listening, sometimes students, faculty, staff, your colleagues, somebody who just wants to rave about your institution or rant about your institution, more likely than not. Some days you find yourself, as in that case, communicating. One of my pet peeves is we have improved our communication, but we still get knocked on what, how, when, who, how we package it, timing. These are all issues that we have to confront, and as administrators we get the complaints as well. And now I'm showing off and I'm not doing very well. So what do we hope to get from this session? We want to hear your views. The people who have not been vocal, but who we know are the heart of the institution. I consider the administrators the heart of the institution. If you've heard me before on the issue of deans, that's another issue altogether. We'd love to see what themes we can actually pull out for next year's conference as well. We try to be as sort of exhaustive. We can't be exhaustive. And of course the sharing of the challenges and the sharing of potential solutions. We all face in our respective little corners various issues, but how do we solve them? How can we share those experiences? And I think this is the value. We come together once a year and we have lots of excellent presentations, but there are always the underlying issues that we don't necessarily confront. And if we can look at the next one, I actually had a few issues that I thought we can start off. The big four, financing. Now, my own pet peeve is there are issues with financing, yes, but is it the financing that comes in, or is it how we manage the finances that we have? Though that's a little gray area that I have a concern about. I mean, but financing. Access. We talk about broadening access. Are we looking at issues of matriculation standards, quality standards? That's of course the next area. Quality and communication. That's my pet peeve. The literature I've been seeing, times of plenty, we get complacent. We do the same thing, but in times of lean times, that's when we get creative. But I worry that after 3 decades, 4 decades of adversity, are we also becoming accustomed to that and operating in that sort of on the whatever mode? Professional development is another area that I think we share a concern about. Who are we developing? What are we developing them for? Are we doing succession planning? We need to hear from you what your thoughts are as well. How do we do it with limited budgets? How do we do it to ensure that the person enjoys, your staff member, your colleague, gets as good an experience out of your institution and their own learning experience, and they want to give back to the institution and continue to, we've just talked about rankings, the disincentive that is caused by the whole issue that Anna raised of good researcher. I mean, does it mean that the other researchers are not good? What does that do in terms of your own perception of your academic abilities? Impact of technology, the intrusion on life. Emails are terrible. Smartphones, we're now connected like an umbilical cord to the institution. How do we manage that? How do you see this constant intrusion on your life? 9:30 at night, 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I've gotten calls. I've sent off emails at 1 o'clock in the morning. How do we address that? And the whole issue, as Professor Abel reminded us, work-life balance. How do we separate that? I think we need a session on that as well at some stage. On, do I say at 4:30? That's it. 5:30, that I start work sometimes at 5:30 in the afternoon. But that's when I do my best work, you know. But that's me. So, we need to hear from you. The mics are there. Yell, brand, rave, financing. Who's starting the ball rolling? This is your session. Nobody? Nobody has adversities, misfortunes that we're learning? Paul?
Yes, I just want to contribute to the third point on your first slide of administrators not being in control of their days. I can relate to that. You come to the office with your to-do list, and as you mentioned, the first email throws it all off. So one is being controlled, if one allows it, by your inbox, which ought not to happen. So I'm suggesting something that has been suggested to me and what I've also been doing. I don't power up the computer the first thing that I do. I go to my to-do list and I go through my to-do list. When I'm finished with my to-do list, I do other things. The thing is, I take the view in relation to emails that whomever sends me an email, they have the raw meat. And if it is that important, they will call me. And so I'm going to not go by the email path, but my to-do list is where I'm going to be going. Because that's a reality of what happens. And that's what I'm suggesting that persons should give some consideration to. It might work.
Thank you. Because it means, therefore, we should probably look at a session on how we manage ourselves and time and, okay. Sounds good. I need to do that. Don't power out that computer. Okay. Something I'm concerned about is the question of mental health. And, well, maybe not mental health, but we're talking about access and student diversity. We're talking internationalization of our institutions, international students coming in. How are we meeting their needs? There's also the issues of the LGBTQ community. And more as we mainstream those challenges, how do we as administrators deal with those issues as well? Now, I'm very liberal. Jamaica is I dare say, homophobic. But how do we then balance what we do as giving our students, all our students, a good experience, and balance that with colleagues' perceptions of those issues? We had one session last year that dealt with the LGBTQ issue, but it doesn't tend to come up as frontally as I think it should. But how do we, we have policies, but are we living those policies? So, help. HR? This session is not for me to talk, it's for everybody else to talk.
LGBT question, there is probably going to be within our fraternity here some information coming in another year or two, because we do have at the moment a PhD student.
This is Craig McNally?
Yes, yeah. yes. Who is looking at the experiences of LGBT students in our ACHEA's Caribbean locally and so forth, and how his findings might inform policy and other considerations. So the point I'm making is that in short order, we will have some perspectives and insights on that particular question. So it's happening now, and so soon enough we may have that. And as we have been doing here sharing among our colleagues and counterparts, that information will come soon.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. What about the other institutions? How do you deal with those challenges?
I think I need to correct you, Alison. The UWI policy with respect to diversity and inclusion is still in a phase of evolution. It's not been finalized yet. But I would wish, I would hope that once that has been completed, the sensitization process would take place, and that's very important. And I believe that ACHEA has a role to play. Each chapter should have a session, you know, among the other institutions about this issue, because it's not going to go away. And we can't bury our heads in the sand expecting that it will go away or that we won't. When the crisis comes, it's too late at that point. So I think therefore that we all, as an association, we need to think about how we're going to, you know, disseminate information about tolerance and acceptance, and see how best we can promote a lifestyle in where these persons of different orientations would be comfortable.
Thank you, thank you. And this is the forum where we can share that kind of policy across institutions. Sandy?
Morning, everyone. On a different note, I'd like to speak about managing work-life balance, achieving work-life balance, and managing stress on the job. I have a 9-month-old, and my daughter just did PEP. So you can just imagine the juggling act between managing a screaming baby, and trying to make sense of PEP and to help my child to do well. Sleepless nights, not being able to function on a daily basis as one would, not remembering things, scatterbrain syndrome. You come to work and the things are on your desk and you dealt with them yesterday and you don't remember a thing about what you did. Now, one of the things I'd want to comment on is how my manager has handled my situation. One of the things we've learned in the conference so far is demonstrating emotional intelligence as leaders and understanding your employees and caring for them and taking into consideration their situation. My manager is a male, so he doesn't know what it is like to have children and to, you know, the stresses of being a mother, a working mother. No, I mean, he cannot experience it. He's a male. So he can only look at it from his wife's perspective. But what I appreciate is the fact that compassion is shown. And so some mornings, I walk in the office at 9 o'clock when I should really be there at 8, simply because I'm struggling to get my family out of the house and to get the baby ready for nursery and so on. But he understands, and I will work late to make up for it. So one of the things that I'd want to encourage those who are in leadership, those who have persons who report to them, to demonstrate a little compassion. At the session yesterday on emotional intelligence, Mr. Aiton made the point that if you treat your employees well, they'll do anything for you. And so I'm encouraging persons who are responsible for others in terms of leadership to demonstrate compassion, and you'll win the loyalty of your subordinates.
Hear, hear. Yes, I think that's certainly something that we should all practice. I'll tell a little story. When in my first job, I started at 18. At 19, I got thrown into supervising. And I think I've been blessed with supervisors who have looked out for my interests and mentored me. When I have also committed to that, every new staff member who came in under my watch, I think it is important that you have a discussion and you say to them that this is not the ultimate in job. And I should ensure that we work together to make sure you move to the next level of either academic achievement, professional achievement. How do we as administrators make sure that we develop our younger colleagues. That's something that I have a concern. I mean, we call it professional development and all sorts of things. There are policies in place too across our institutions for nurturing colleagues, but do we use it effectively? I mean, I have my own concerns. HR people, where are you? How do you select them? Is there a consultation process? That remains quite a concern.
My major concern would be how do we balance, and I hear my sister's pain, how do we balance that compassion with organization effectiveness? I was just saying to my colleague that there are many instances I've had to intervene in her department because her compassion has become my problem. And so we need to find that balance to see how we do that. But to start the process, there has to be the consultation. Because there are times when persons genuinely have problems and they need that space to create the solutions. And there are times when we have people who just lazy. And so we need to determine which is which and how we approach. So my general trend is everybody gets a little leeway to sort yourself out. But at some point, the institution has to operate. And in that operation, it cannot be seen that there's favoritism. Because some people get away with murder and you see the other people. Yes. So we have to be careful how we balance, or else we create even bigger problems for ourselves.
The whole notion of equity. Thank you. Yes. Yes, because that... Ms. Mars? I answer to her.
Is Dr. Sharon Williams-Brown here? She isn't in here? All right. I was listening to Professor Abel yesterday, and the question was asked, how do you identify somebody who has a mental issue, and what do you do if you believe they have, or you think they have a mental issue? And I was thinking, you know, we seem to believe that it's only administrators who have mental issue, like some of us that are here. No. The reason I ask is because when I heard the response that we can reach out to the health center at Mona, speak to them, tell them we think this person is having a mental issue, but I said if I do that, I'm going to lose my job. And a lot of people may lose their job, and I'm not talking about me, because next thing I go back, I do have a job. But what about your supervisor or your boss? You know, if you think they have split personality disorder, how do you handle that? Because it's not me just reporting Angela, who is my colleague in the office, but if there's somebody higher up who I think really have a mental issue, how do you deal with that?
Well, that's one for the counselors. In fact, how many institutions here have counseling units? I know UE has, Bahamas, UTEC. I get your university mixed up. Okay, so they're represented, but it obviously means that we need, well, the policy, we need those policies in place. So we could do a session on that as well. Pat?
Yeah, thank you very much. Pat Brown from St. Augustine. I wanted to bring to the fore for us to kind of follow up on two things that came up through the conference. One is the question of the divide. Who are we as administrators between academic and administrators? Those are issues that have been plaguing us for years. My own position is that as an administrator, and I think, Alison, you did make mention of it, the administrators are the ones who look after the university's business. And that's what we have to do. You may have faculties where you have deans or academics are in a specific area, but at the end of the day, the administrators are the ones who have to look after the business of the university altogether. So when the academics may feel, well, that's not your business and you can't tell me this is an academic matter, at the end of the day, who gets sued is the campus registrar. A dean does not go to court. The officer under the statutes of all the institutions, I'm sure. So therefore, from that context, I am extremely comfortable as an administrator Because if I do anything or ill-advise my faculty or guide them in their own regulations, then my campus registrar will have to turn to me to say, hey, what's wrong here? So it's not an easy thing to do, but I think once we see ourselves in that context, we give ourselves a level of confidence. I would also want to share something that through my career, at the time I was a secretary in a particular department at St. Augustine, and I was asked to pick up another role out of the university, and my head of department said to me, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a student, you are my secretary, you are, why can't you be? And I said to myself, all these things I had to do, how do I do it? How do I take care of me in the midst of doing everything that we had to do? It was a learning lesson for me, and it is something that has helped me through. We all have multiple roles. And when you come to the office, it is even bigger, because guess what? You have support staff who you have to take care of with all those issues. Why are they coming to work late? Well, I have my child who was sick. Okay, but as my colleague just says, there's a point in time we have to draw a line to say, hey, my job here is to make sure that we do what we have to do for the institution. It boils down, therefore, my position, therefore, is that to balance this work life, this career, this whatever, is going to take a hell of a lot on us. Nobody does it for you, the individual. We have to find a way to do it. Other than that, we are all going to be mental. We're all going to have things, but you have to find a way, and the strength, and of course, that strength could only come from, you know where the superpower is. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. So we have a theme coming up, emerging out of this. Work-life balance. What balance and whose life? So we will play with that a little. Garcia?
Yes, hi. What I wanted to touch on was the point before about, well, it's pretty much the same point about balancing work and how do you strike that delicate balance between the members of your team who have certain needs and your own duty-bound direction to the organization. A big part of management, beyond administration, is coaching. Leaders who are going to be effective at achieving a particular objective and creating a cohesive team have to be prepared to do coaching. It's one of those skills we have to learn because we have a diverse set of persons. If you're leading a team, the needs are different, and then you have the organization's need as well. So a big part of it is, as you've said, you have to do one-on-one communication, and then as a team, the team has to agree that this team has to deliver 100% of the time. So in our team, for example, if Marjorie is going through something right now, as a team, this team can't fall. We have to be there for each other. So you have to build a relation vertically. That's between the different levels. And then you have to build relationship horizontally. That together, outside of the team, nobody knows what's happening. But it takes a lot of work, and then you have to be vested in people. Yes. But so it's one of those, I'm proposing that maybe coaching, twinned with emotional intelligence and so on, those are things that we could look at in the future because life is hard.
Great, thank you so much. Well, we'd hope that this session could be an hour long, but I'd love to hear from Lena. It's Lena. See, I'm learning the names.
Okay, just a quick point on the work-life balance, just a little suggestion. I believe that the issue of flexible work arrangement could really help. I know in some contexts it may work, it may not work, I don't know. But I know that persons in Jamaica here, in some areas where you have a great deal of construction and all of that, I find that for commuting, sometimes even 3 hours to get you to work. 3 hours in the traffic, so you're wasting time. You know, by the time you get to work, you're tired and everything. So I'm just saying that if some arrangement could be made that you could come in at 10 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock. And, you know, I don't know how the supervision part would work out, but I'm just saying that administrators could think about this as a strategy to help to balance. You know, so you have people dropping off their kids to school and among other things. So I don't know how it could work, but where it could work, we could also try to implement
certainly looking
flexible work
at
arrangements.
How we balance work.
Yes.
Well, I'll take the last two questions quickly, and we try to get back in the stream.
All right, just a quick comment. We talk about work-life as if they're two different things, and maybe if we think about life balance and all the factors that we need to look at to manage our lives and take care of ourselves, that might be a different, slightly different prism to look through.
Thank you.
The suggestion I have for the question about how do we refer persons we suspect with mental illness who are above us in terms of the structure, what I have used in my career is I've always had a very good relationship with in this case now, with my chief chaplain. And I discuss these matters, and the chaplain has a way to approach these matters without it seemingly to be a referral or a complaint. So I don't know if maybe that would work in that case.
Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion. I have a similar issue happening right now too. But folks, I really wanted this to be an hour long because I like the sharing of ideas and the whole thing of bonding, because we realize that the issues that we have we don't operate in silos. They're the same issues across institutions, across countries, and I'm sure our psychologist here is quite interested in hearing some of the sharing that we have. But we have to cut this short now. Thank you.